So thank you for joining us for the Leaders Live virtual series in celebration of Black History Month, of course. For all those that are unaware, I am Jaydee Dyer. You might have seen me on Sky Sports and the NBA as well. And I'm joined today by an England legend, a good friend of mine. I will also say a fellow Antiguan, for all those that are aware as well, Mr. Emile Heskey. Emile, it's always a pleasure to chop it up with you, my friend, especially in these important months where we get a chance to talk about your journey, your history, your culture, where you come from as well, and all the successes that have put you on this sort of stride. So how are you today, my friend?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me, JD.
Always, man. It's so interesting because we're looking at the middle of an international break with the England men's national team at this moment in time. And every time I think about it, I think about your journey, the trailblazer that you are, Ashley Cole, and all the other people that you stood on, the Cyril Regises, the Laurie Cunninghams, all the rest of it, to kind of allow yourself to be the example that we know today. When you sort of reflect, do you still get those goosebumps when you watch the England national team at all?
Yeah, look, you reminisce on the time that you were in there putting on that shirt, playing in front of X and many thousands of fans, and I was lucky enough to play on the two generations in the sense of the old Wembley and the new Wembley. So I was lucky enough to do the both of them, and it's just great to look back and, like you're saying, reminisce on and look back at who paved the way for us. You know, when I come into the team, you still had your Ian Wrights, you still had Paul Ince's, Andy Cole's, Celez was there as well. So players like that who were that era before you, and then you look even further, like you're saying, your Laurie Cunninghams, your Brendan Batsons, Viv Anderson, who's a very good friend of mine as well. Our kids play football together, so yeah, you look at them; they paved the way for us.
And no, I wanna take it back because I remember when you burst into the scene in the Premier League, strength, power, they really couldn't handle you. In fairness, you kept that all the way through your career, my friend. But I just want to kind of highlight some of the important components that I feel like summarize Emile Heskey's, especially his club career. So I want to take it to Leicester first of all. What was that like, breaking through in that system? Obviously, you coming from Leicester and that environment too. And how important was it in terms of your development as a person, as a man?
It was great, me actually coming through at Leicester in the sense that I'm from Leicester, born and raised. I had my people around me, so very important because it was easier if when you do have setbacks that you've got the right structure around you. And I had that there on my doorstep. I was 15 breaking into the youth team, 16 playing with the first team, 17 making my debut. So everything just went very quick and just spiraled. But again, I had my support mechanism. I was confident, and I was confident in my own ability and my own self. So nothing really fazed me in that sense. I just took everything in my stride, and it helped me in that sense going into the first team. And like you're saying, that 17, 18 breaking in, 17 breaking in, 18 being a regular. I just took it. I found it fairly not easy, but I felt comfortable in that environment, and I had good individuals around me. And this is one of the things I talk about, even till today. The senior pros around you have a lot to do with you progressing and how you progress. And I had good senior players around me. Steve Walsh was great. Players like that, when Matty Elliott was wonderful as well. Players like that keep you grounded, but keep pushing you as well. None of them were bullies in the sense that they didn't want you to see you strive. They wanted to see you strive, but they wanted to see you strive in the right way. And I always say that now with the senior players that are playing now, you've got so much, you don't realise the importance of you to them, that generation trying to come through now. You've got so much to give back, and you must give it back in the right way.
Did you understand during that time sort of the importance and the weight that you held in terms of breaking through the academy and also flourishing in the first team?
I didn't. Honestly, I didn't. And it's only now I'll slowly, you look back and you realise the importance of what you've done and what that means for the rest of you coming through. But you're only riding your own wave at times, and then and it's not until you look back and you say, wow, did I do that? Wow, was I doing that? is that what it meant to people? Because I even see younger kids now, who I call young kids, but they're adults who are probably like 5 or 6 years behind me, looking at them, and they saying how important it was me breaking through at their time, the way that I played as well, helping them break through as well, and helping them aspire to be first team players. And I'm just thinking, I'm just doing what I'm doing. I'm just doing what I love. I didn't realize it was actually having an effect on people and really pushing them as well. But it's great to see that, and great for people to feel that. And I'm glad that I did it in the way that I did it, because again, it helped others do it in that manner as well.
I feel like a lot of we'll say casual fans will remember you in a Liverpool shirt almost immediately. They won't sort of remember the foundations that you laid at Leicester and how you took the Premier League by storm at the turn of the century. But when you went to Liverpool, it was a big money move. It was well understood. Obviously, being an English striker as well. Did you feel the pressure, especially because of the history of Liverpool Football Club?
You know what, JD? I didn't. It was weird. I didn't, because in my mind, I'm just thinking I'm only taking another step in my progression. Mm. And then when you get there and you start playing, then you realize, oh well, yeah, there is some sort of pressure, but it's if you feed into it. So every minute of this, every step of the way that I did take the step, it was, oh, he's 11 million, he's this, he's that. He hasn't scored that many goals. He hasn't done this. Instead of looking at the positives, we always look at negatives. And I never really looked at negatives because I knew what I was bringing to the team. Like you're saying, I was an England international. I was a regular at this time. So I'd been in and around the players that I was going to join up with Liverpool. I'd been in and around them for the last 3 years. So it wasn't a problem for me. It was the negativity that came with all the other people, which is judgmental at times. And I didn't feed into that. I just carried on with my game, carried on doing what I was doing. The manager was brilliant in Gerard Houllier because he backed me. And if you've got someone, like you're saying, if you're doing anything you're doing and everyone's there criticizing you, but your manager's backing you, one, you know that you're doing something right, and two, you know that you want to please him. So that was all I wanted to do. I didn't really feed into all that, and that helped me, especially with the first couple of years.
I want to know where that foundation comes from. Is it your friends? Is it your family? I mean, I know you speak about how proud you are being a Leicester guy and then coming through that system and having that support basis. But when you moved to Liverpool, unjustly so, there was a lot of unnecessary criticism around you and around your style of play and who you were as an individual. Where did your humbling and sort of inner strength come from to turn around and shut all of that out?
I think it's from upbringing. Again, I'm a little bit older than you, but growing up in the 80s, you're gonna get criticised for just being a black kid walking down the street. You're gonna have that. So this sort of tough upbringing that you had in that sense, nothing else really fazed you, does it? You've got to remember at that time racism was rife. So again, your wits about you. You're always aware of what's around you, and that's normal. Coming from an area where I came from, where my first part of my life, it was a black area. It's a black neighborhood, so you're tough anyway. So that sort of stuff gives you that grounding. You're family orientated. It's not just your immediate family; it's everyone in the area is your family. So you're going to cousins, you're going to aunties, you're staying there for the weekend. Them sort of things. They'll toughen you up, and you navigate your way through this system where you're going to come up against obstacles, and you've got to figure out how to navigate your way through it. I hope my kids don't have to do that, but I hope, and I know they'll be ready for that.
It's so interesting because there's so many different dynamics I want to break into with just that one comment. You talk about sort of the growing up and having to harden yourself. When was the first time you realized, I would say, that you were different, or you were in an environment where you had to move different because of the color of your skin?
From a young age, to be honest with you, we're not stupid, are we? From a young age, where you're even going in school and everyone's looking at you in school. I went from a neighborhood which is black, and then I moved to a predominantly white neighborhood, but it was only on the outskirts. And going there, and I'm one of two in my class, probably four in my year. and everyone's just stood there, sat there staring at you. Yes, I'm a new kid, but you know the difference. So little things like that, and then being the only when playing football, being one of two in your team, and then probably one of six in your league. So and this wasn't a case of it was bad experience in that sense, because it wasn't. I know some of my family friends who stayed in the area, and they play for the local team in the area, which is a predominantly black team, and I never had the problems that they had, and I think it's because they're a full team of black kids with their parents, whereas I was just one and possibly two. They're not going to be picked up on that in that sense, are you? So and then when I hear some of their stories, I'm like, I never went through that in particularly because I wasn't involved in just that one team.
I want to give you your flowers, as we say, with this new generation while you're here, because I remember growing up and watching you, Rio Ferdinand, Ashley Cole, Sol Campbell, and being inspired and thinking to myself, these guys are really paving the way and maybe not understanding, but really celebrating what it meant to feel like to be black and British and be successful in football. So that's kudos to you, my friend. But I do want to know, in terms of when you was at the highest level, were there any experiences of racism that you felt like there should be things done here? There should be better support system because I'm just doing my job.
Numerous times, especially when playing abroad. Typical one is obviously going to places like Slovakia. I went there, whole stadium monkey chants. With all due respect to the FA, they did lodge a complaint, but again, this is where we have a difference in how you deal with certain things, and unless you're severe with the punishment, people just carry on doing it. Boa Vista for Liverpool, and that was a strange one for me because they had 8 or 9 black Brazilian players, and their fans, because we were winning, were giving it to their players. And I'm looking at it, what's going on? They're just like, and it's a case that, again, and the Brazilian lads just had to take it on the chin and move on. Because, again, what's going to be done? Hopefully we've moved on to the point where we're actually trying to attack it and eradicate it. And we'll come with some serious ramifications. But to this point, we haven't really seen it. But we're getting there. We're trying to move closer towards that.
Of course.
But that's the sort of stuff that happened during my career.
I think about the rest of your career, and I do want to celebrate it as well. The period at Aston Villa, Bolton, even abroad. Emile Heskey, you're, I would say, a worldwide striker, well-known, well-renowned. How do you look back when you think about your club career now?
I loved it. Yeah. The thing is, I did my book and I got a chance to actually look back at my career properly. And it's even, to be honest with you, even things that I forgot that I did. And you're like, oh, wow, okay, I achieved that. And to look back now and say I was representing the black community, and hopefully I represented them in the right way, in the right manner. Because we do. And regardless of how we actually look upon it, I grew up in a black community, and my heroes were black footballers and black cricketers. Sir Viv Richards is huge, as you know, as an Antiguan. So then to actually be coming back and seeing that these people are happy and worshipping and looking at what you've done and happy for what you've done in the local pub, it's just wonderful. And like I said, if I had said to myself at a young age, I'd have won 4 League Cups, going to 6 finals, won the FA Cup, UEFA Cup, Super Cup, go to 2 Euros and to 2 World Cups, be in the 100 club and play over 500 games in the Premier League, I'd have probably told you you're lying. But I've managed to do that and come out at the end happy. So yeah,
Credit,
it's wonderful. It's wonderful to look
credit,
back.
credit to you. So I'm saying it's always a pleasure to sit down with you, man, and talk. But catch me up. What's happening now? I know that you're opening up a new chapter in your life, and talking about coaching and talking about management. So what's that process like for you now that you're post football?
So yeah, the thing for me is obviously when I was growing up, you always want to emulate someone. I looked at Ian Wright, I looked at John Barnes was the one. I pretend to be left-footed because I wanted to be like John Barnes. And then you take the next step and you come and there's no real role models when you're actually looking at the coaching side of it. Yes, we have Chris Hutons and we want more, and this is where for myself, I probably should have got all my badges beforehand, but I'm working through that. I've been given the opportunity to be ambassador for Leicester City Women's, which is wonderful, to help them as well with their development and pathways. And then as well, the coach Jonathan Morgan's given me the opportunity to coach with them as well. So that will help with my licenses and taking that next step, whether it be in the dugout with the coaching management, or whether it be in the admin side of things, where I'm higher up and trying to develop and trying to help structure clubs. Who knows? But I'm keeping myself active within that. Leicester have given me, Susan Whelan's given me a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to work within the women's football, which for a long time has been overlooked, but now is really being pushed and being put back on the map with a wonderful result at the weekend, beating Liverpool. So I've got to get that in 2-1, and Paige scored. So yeah, it's been great start so far.
I always grew up with the saying that you can't be though what you can't see. And when you see such a lack of black managers at the highest level, only currently at this moment today, only 5 black managers in the 92 Premier League and EFL clubs. I just asked, does that sort of put you off? Does that give you a lack of motivation? How do you sort of channel that to inner motivation to say that you want to be one of those successful managers?
It did put me off, because again, you get to a point where what's the point? What's the point if they've been doing this for 15, 20 years of coaching, they've got the highest level of coaching badges. What chance have I got? But then you get to a point where you say, no, you got to push yourself. You got to really challenge yourself and really push yourself to be the best and be up there. I know a lot of people say, well, shouldn't it be the best person for the job? Well, you don't know if the best person for the job if you're not giving them an interview.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. If you don't know what you're missing out on, if your pool is just this, you don't know what you're missing out on. So I think we've just got to really keep pushing ourselves and really put ourselves out there within the structure of getting interviews and knowing what is needed from the interview. Because if you've never been in that interviewing system, how do you know what's needed? How do you know what they want to hear? Because we've never been in that environment. So this is something that we possibly need a little bit of help with as well. Because you can't tell us that we haven't got the badges, because I'll tell you now, there's over 1,000 with either Pro, A, B, or Level 2. There's over 1,000, so there's something not right there. That we have the actual qualifications, but we're not getting that opportunity. So again,
I was going to say 2020 seems to be the year that open communication. It seems to be the most.
Well, yeah, 100%. And this is a great thing with social media, different platforms that we can actually then say, well, you're telling us these stats, or these stats have being churned out and being thrown up, but have a look at this. Oh, we never knew they were there. Well, you did know they were there because they've gone through this system that you keep telling us to go through. So I think it's about now that we're now really pushing the powers that be to really give us a chance to even just be on a level playing field, and even when it just comes to interviews. We talk about the Rooney Rule. It's a start. We're talking about quotas now. Yeah. Yeah, that's a start as well. But again, we need to see some action as well.
The Leaders Organisation are always looking at sort of things that are happening within sports that sometimes don't get highlighted. especially when you're talking about things that happen in the background. So I'd love to know of any projects or any things that you're involved in that are increasing the diversity in sort of sports performance and sports excellence overall.
Well, I think when you're looking at the PFA, I know they get a lot of criticism. I think that's more for the hierarchy. But when you're talking about foot soldiers, the PFA, they're doing some good things in the sense of really pushing for change and pushing for. They're doing a lot of voluntary code, which is probably not what I would want right now, but it's a step forward. Voluntary has been for too long. We need change, and I think, but at least that gets people in the door to showcase what they're actually capable of doing, which is great. At the end of the day, if you can get 10 young coaches in an academy somewhere showcasing what they're able to do, that's wonderful. Even if it's on a temporary basis, because again, you, Jaydee, I get you in the door. You show them what you're capable of doing. It only takes that one person to really look at it and say, I like what he's doing. How long is he here for? Well, he's only here for 6 months. No, he's here for, I need to give him a little bit longer than that. I need to give him 2 years. And then it blossoms from there. Because again, you're not being looked upon. You're not being looked at. But this is the ones that this is the way you can get into the door, which is great. And then just when you're looking at, like I said, the PFA, they're doing some great things. The FA are trying to do things. And then for us is having more visible diversity at the top end. Because again, I do say that the FA and the PFA have really tried to do their best at the grassroots and the lower end. But if we want real change and we want proper change, for good, I think it's got to be at the top end because it will cascade down.
I really want to touch on that as my final point to you, because I think you just highlighted something that I don't think a lot of people are really understanding in terms of how to change the system, as they turn around and say. You highlighted something that was so important there, change at the top end. Do you believe if we change sort of the boardrooms and those decision makers, then things can actually start trickling down in terms of more equal diversity?
I think that's where you have to start. I think that's where you have to start in the sense of getting people in there who are going to challenge a little bit certain nuances and certain things that are going on. Challenge it a little bit more and ask the right questions. And then once you start asking the right questions, and then that changes people's perceptions and people's minds, things will start to happen. Because at this moment in time, we've got the same old been going on, and it's a bit disappointing that we're still using this thing of, we're still losing a lot of potential black coaches. Okay, well, what are you doing about it? Yeah, but we just keep talking about it. But until we actually attack it at the top and then put certain things in place, like saying, no, we're not going to lose them out of there. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do X, Y, and Z, and real tangible change. Then you'll see a difference. But until then, we'll just keep talking about it, and we'll keep putting initiatives at the grassroots, which is great. I think we're getting there at the grassroots, and we're getting there at the some of the academies, but lower down. But when you're talking about real change in the heart of it and at the top of it, we're not really making much of a change, if any. I'm definitely not doing it quick enough.
Conversations that we've had, and you left me with such a food for thought last time we spoke, and saying that we don't want to be talking in 10 years about another lost generation of black talented coaches. And for me, just listening to those words there, you've really just echoed it once again.
But Jaydee, it's not just coaches as well. It's admin, it's IT, it's doctors, it's you name it within football, it's that. Mm-hmm. Where is their entry level? Where do they feel they can play a role in that system? At this moment in time, you really only see that you can play a role if you can run around quick enough to and do some step overs. Apart from that, we don't see it, and this is where we've got to push, because you can't tell me there isn't great black doctors. You can't tell me there isn't great black physios. You can't tell me there isn't IT. I've seen it. You see it on the internet all the time.
Yeah,
But how is that? Where's their entry level into football at the elite level?
of course.
You know, I don't know, kitmen or whatever it may be, anything. We've got to see it.
Emile Heskey, always a pleasure, man. I'm going to give you your flowers now because you know what? England international, part of the 100 club, played for some of the most established clubs in England, but more than anything else, just a great example and a leader within the Black community, man. Thank you so much, as always, for jumping on for Black History Month and the Leaders Diverse Conference and always giving us a bit of knowledge. Pleasure, man.
Thank you. Thank you.